7 years ago, I married my wife in a beautiful ceremony in Georgia, surrounded by family and friends. We were both 21, young and hopelessly in love. Our relationship had been built on trust, laughter, and a shared love for adventure. We eagerly looked forward to building a life together. Hand in hand. Life was good, and my best friend was always there to support us. He and I have been friends since high school, and we had been through thick and thin together. I couldn't imagine a life without him. By my side, he had grown into a successful entrepreneur, owning a fashionable clothing store in town, which had become quite popular among the locals. As for me, I worked for my dad at his appliance store. It was a family business, and I was proud to be a part of it. My dad taught me the value of hard work and dedication, and I was grateful for the opportunity to learn from him. My wife stayed at home, taking care of the house and managing our finances. She had a knack for creating a cozy and welcoming home, and I love coming back to it every day. After work, our social life was full of laughter, gatherings with friends, and memorable trips. My wife and I enjoyed hosting dinner parties, game nights, and weekend getaways with our close-knit group of friends. My best friend was always present, often bringing his infectious energy and humor to our event. We were like a small family, and our bond seemed unbreakable. Little did I know that a storm was brewing on the horizon, threatening to shatter everything I held dear. One fateful day, while I was home with my wife, I stumbled upon something that would change everything. My wife had left her phone on the kitchen counter. And as I walked past, I noticed a new notification. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to take a quick peek. I never imagined that this innocent action would lead to a whirlwind of heartbreak and betrayal. The message was from my best friend, filled with suggestive language and innuendos. My heart raced as I scrolled through their conversation, each message more incriminating than the last. I couldn't believe my eyes. The two people I trusted the most were betraying me. The pain was unbearable, and I felt as if I had been struck by lightning. I knew I had to confront them, but I wanted to be strategic about it. I needed them to admit their deceit, and I wanted to cast them off guard. So I came up with a plan. I invited my best friend over for a barbecue at our place, as if everything was normal. I kept my pain hidden, acting as if nothing was wrong while I prepared for the ultimate confrontation. The day of the barbecue arrived, and I could barely contain my emotions. My best friend showed up all smiles, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit him. My wife, on the other hand, seemed a bit on edge, perhaps sensing that something was off. But she played along, greeting our guest and making sure everyone had a good time. As the evening progressed, I grew more and more anxious, waiting for the right moment to strike. And finally, after the food had been served and the guest had settled into their conversations, I pulled my wife and best friend aside. I wanted to look them in their eyes when I exposed their lies, and I wanted them to know that I was not a fool. With a deep breath, I confronted them about their affair. They initially denied it, feigning shock and disbelief. But I had the evidence. I showed them the messages, the proof of their betrayal, and watched as their faces turned pale. There was no escaping the truth. Now, in the days that followed the confrontation, I was devastated. My entire world had crumbled, and I felt lost and betrayed. I knew that I couldn't continue living this way. So I made a difficult decision to file for divorce. My wife tried to apologize and beg for forgiveness, but the damage was done. There was no going back. Not after what she and my best friend had done. I met with a divorce attorney who explained the process and helped me get started under Georgia law. My wife's infidelity would play a significant role in our divorce proceedings. Her actions had destroyed our marriage, and she would have to face the consequences of her betrayal. During the divorce hearing, my wife's attorney tried to argue for alimony, claiming that she needed financial support since she had been working. However, the judge saw through her attempts and denied her request. According to Georgia law, her infidelity negated her chances of receiving any alimony. It was a small victory in the midst of a painful ordeal as we continued with the divorce process. I was grateful that my wife and I had not accumulated any significant assets and we didn't have any children. It made the divorce somewhat less complicated and allowed me to focus on moving forward and rebuilding my life throughout this entire ordeal. I felt a mixture of anger, sadness and betrayal. My trust had been shattered and I knew that I would never be able to look at my wife or best friend the same way again. I needed closure and I wanted the world to know what they had done after the divorce was finalized. I was left with a burning desire for justice. I wanted everyone to know about the deceitful actions of my wife and best friend. I couldn't let them continue their lives as if nothing had happened while I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered existence. So I decided to expose their affair on social media. I gathered all of the incriminating evidence. I had collected the text messages, photos and anything else that showed their deceit. I carefully crafted a post that detailed the entire story. From the moment I discovered the truth to the divorce proceedings, I made sure to include the fact that the judge had denied my wife's request for alimony due to her infidelity. When I had post, I felt a mix of emotions. There was relief in finally sharing my story, but also a lingering sadness over the betrayal that had ended my marriage. I wasn't sure how people would react, but I knew that I couldn't keep the secret any longer. Within hours, my post began to gain traction. People started commenting, sharing their own stories of betrayal and expressing their support for me. Friends and family reached out offering their condolences and help. During this challenging time, the fallout was swift. My best friend's clothing store faced backlash with customers vowing never to shop there again. My ex-wife also faced the consequences of her actions as people in our community distanced themselves from her. As I watched the events unfold, I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication while I wouldn't heal the wounds left by their betrayal. Exposing the truth had given me a sense of closure that I desperately needed. In the weeks following the exposure of the affair, I focused on rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy. There were moments when I felt overwhelmed by anger and sadness, but with the support of my friends and family, I began to heal. I continued working at my dad's appliance store, pouring my energy into my job. The store thrived and I found satisfaction in helping customers find the perfect appliances for their homes. Work became a welcome distraction from the pain and a reminder that there was still so much to live for. I also made a conscious effort to reconnect with old friends who had fallen by the wayside during my marriage. It felt good to strengthen those bonds and create new memories with people who genuinely cared about my well-being. Slowly, I began to rebuild my social circle and connections based on trust and loyalty. As time went on, I started to feel whole again. The pain of my wife's betrayal and the loss of my best friend still lingered, but it no longer consumed me. I began to realize that their actions didn't define me or my worth, and I refused to let their betrayal dictate my future. I even started dating again cautiously at first, but with an open heart. I knew that not everyone would betray my trust as my wife and best friend had. And I was determined to find someone who would stand by my side through thick and thin. Ultimately, exposing the affair taught me a valuable lesson about the power of having mental strength and the importance of surrounding myself with people who truly had my best interest at heart. While I couldn't change the past, I had the power to shape my future. And I was determined to create a life filled with love, trust and happiness. Well, in my opinion, this young man didn't waste any time. Did send me a follow-up email telling me that his ex-wife was stalking him trying to get back together. He had to get a restraining order.